Can I have a very warm welcome for Mr. Peter Hinssen.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you for the warm introduction and welcome. Very glad to be here. I didn't know it was a birthday party, but gelukkige verjaardag. And I'm going to talk about information, I'm going to talk about intelligence, and I want to wrap it into something which I call the day after tomorrow. I'm finishing a book called The Day After Tomorrow, and it really talks about the tsunami of change. We all feel the tsunami of change. We see fundamental changes, things that looked like science fiction just a couple of years ago become reality almost overnight. And we have no idea how this actually got started. I'm sure historians will get it wrong. In the age of fake news, I'm quite sure that these people will be seen as the inventors of the internet in 2050. But I think we see fundamental changes, things that are going faster than ever before. And I'm a technologist. And one of the strange things about technologists is we always get our timing completely wrong. I want to start with this amazing quote. Bill Gates was asked to say something visionary in 1998. It's not even 20 years ago. And he said, eventually, everyone's business card will have an email address. That was a visionary statement in 1998. We live in this new normal. One of the strangest things that happened last year was the coup in Turkey. And the only way for President Erdogan to communicate with his people was using FaceTime on a smartphone. For me, that is the new normal. And I think we're seeing the acceleration of that. I wrote a book on this a couple of years ago, The New Normal. Time magazine pretty much put it in one cover. We're never offline. We're constantly connected. And these are the themes that we've been talking about for the last couple of years. We talk about social, we talk about mobile, we talk about the cloud and big data. And these four words have become incredibly boring in just 3 years. Honestly, if you go to a presentation, people talk about social media, you think, oh. And a couple of years ago, it was exciting. And I think we are seeing an acceleration. It's pretty strange that at the end of 2016, the 5 largest companies in the world, stock exchange, market cap, are all 5 technology companies. They're all 5 technology platform companies running on information. And I think I started to see this, and I felt this acceleration, and that's why I want to focus on this concept of the day after tomorrow. I think the technologies that we will see hitting us in the next 5 to 10 years are going to look like an acceleration of what we've seen before. The type of things that will hit us in the next 5 to 10 years will look social, mobile, big data, and cloud look like lame technologies. And that's what I want to focus on. Typical family reunion 20, 25 years ago, typical family reunion today, and it's not about technology, it's changing behavior. On the left, how do adults use technology to communicate? On the right, the relevance to the next generation. The yellow part is making a phone call. Teenagers never pick up the phone. When I ask my 17-year-old, why don't you pick up the phone? She says, that's awkward. I mean, that is weird, right? But the bottom part, the gray, is email. You couldn't survive in your company without email. It's the lifeblood of organizations. On the right, you see how relevant email is for teenagers. I came home recently, my 17-year-old had a problem on her laptop. She gives it to me because I am still the official sysadmin of the Hinssen family. I open up the laptop and I see to my horror that she has 2,734 unread mails. I don't know how you feel if you have 2,730, but I freaked out, I panicked. And she rolled her eyes, took the laptop out of my hands, opened email, did select all, delete, and said, problem solved. Wow. That's the generation that will enter our companies in a couple of years. And when you, on the first day, say, this is your laptop, and this is your email address, they will have seen a dinosaur. It's not about technology, it's changing behavior. And this is absolutely fundamental. This is my favorite graph of Facebook or the Facebook family. What you see in the light blue line is the total number of SMSs, text messages, of all the mobile operators on the planet. All the Vodafones, T-Mobiles, Proximuses, KPNs added up. And the dark blue line is the number of messages on WhatsApp on a daily basis. And if you would go back to 2010 and you would ask Vodafone or KPN or Proximus or T-Mobile, what is the future of SMS? And in 2010, they were printing money with SMS. If you would have asked them, how is it going to evolve? This is the only thing they could have predicted. And then, bam, that happens. This is disruption in front of our very eyes. End of 2015, there were twice as many messages on WhatsApp than of all the messages of all the mobile operators on the planet. Today, it is 5 times the volume. The 21st century is the age of networks. And if you want to understand how to still be relevant for a consumer in this day and age, you have to speak the language of the network. It's about information that starts to flow, and you have to figure out how to pick it up, how to turn that into insights, and how to actually make sure that you talk in this day and age to the consumer in the language of the network. And I get really excited about that. But I get even more excited about what is just beyond the horizon. I have a wonderful job. I get to visit all these startups. And honestly, I've never had more goosebump moments than in the last 18 months. And it's all because of machine learning and AI. We've seen the signs. This is the famous 1997 match between Kasparov and IBM Deep Blue. Kasparov was humiliated by Deep Blue. And Deep Blue was a purpose-built machine. It was built to play chess. Today, we see the rise of general-purpose AI, machines that teach themselves. Probably the absolute exponent is DeepMind. DeepMind is the company that was founded by Google, bought by Google 2.5 years ago. They were the ones who actually put it to use in beating the best Go player in the world. This happened in the beginning of 2016. What now came out last week is that over 2016, DeepMind played the best Go players in the world the entire year for 51 matches, and it won 50 of the 51 matches. And Go is a game that is exponentially more difficult than chess. Why only 50 out of 51? Because during the 51 match, somebody accidentally tripped over the electricity wire, and DeepMind was unplugged, and they called it a draw, which is fascinating. What it basically means is we are at the end of our life cycle of human intelligence. I believe that almost all of these day-after-tomorrow technologies could be both utopian and dystopian at the same time. And it's going to be up to us to figure out what to do with that. If you look at artificial intelligence and machine learning, the autonomous world that we're getting into is fascinating. It could change our lives, but it could build intelligence that actually is scary. Utopian and dystopian. If you look at the world of Internet of Things, 3D printing, robotics, it could lead us into this fourth industrial revolution, and at the same time, it could have a systemic shift in jobs, unparalleled, like anything we've seen in the last 200 years. If you see what this is going to mean, it means that we're going to have to take charge to make sure it's utopian and not dystopian. If you look at the world of network-based logic, blockchain is one exponent. It could lead us into completely new business models and change the way we think about B2B and transactions. It could also usher us into a world of unbounded, malignant complexity. And if you look at augmented and virtual reality, it could change the way we think about everything, not just games. Think about education. But at the same time, it could create an addiction that honestly, my 13-year-old's addiction to Minecraft would be small potatoes compared to what this could be. And I get really excited. But we have to face one thing. You are going to be confronted with radical innovation. I mean, we are at this day and age where science fiction becomes reality faster than ever before. And we've heard in the introduction, we're entering a world of VUCA, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. That is the new normal that is just in front of us. And if you want to survive in this VUCA world, you need to go fast, but above all, you need to be agile. And I think this is the #1 thing. I'm not going to focus too much on theory, but I love this. You all know this statement. It's not the heat, it's the humidity. I think this day and age, it's not the speed, it's the agility. Big companies can move fast, but can big companies be agile enough to actually make it happen? How can you, as a traditional organization, actually take advantage of this? I'm not going to do much theory, but this is the essential. This is called optionality. Whatever you do, a business, a product, a brand, you start, you grow, you peak, and you decline. This is the cycle of life. When do you have to focus on the next thing? Not when you're going down, that's too late. Not even when you're peaking. The best time to actually think about the future is the moment that you're doing really, really well. And then you can keep on reinventing yourself. Well, easier said than done. But how do you know what is the next thing that you should focus on? The worrying thing is to just keep on doing what you've always been doing. And I don't want to discomfort you, but if you went here thinking, I'm just going to read about data and about analytics, I think you have to move the post in terms of ambition. Let me give you an idea. I'm finishing this book, Day After Tomorrow. This is the dumbest model in the world. And I want you to think about how much of your time do you spend on today, how much on tomorrow, and how much on the day after tomorrow. And what is today? Today is the 112 emails that you get on Monday morning that you didn't know you had to worry about Friday night before. And Lord knows we spend a lot of time in today. What is tomorrow? Tomorrow is next year's budget. And some of you work in companies where you spend an obscene amount of energy figuring out next year's budget, and the moment that you have next year's budget, everybody realizes, well, it's outdated anyway. But we try to figure out tomorrow. And then there is the day after tomorrow. The day after tomorrow are the ideas, concepts, business models, and technologies that change the rule of the game. How much of your time do you spend on today, how much on tomorrow, and how much on the day after tomorrow? Many people tell me 70, 20, 10. And I think this is BS. This is New Year's resolutions. This is what you hope to do. Monday morning, you drive to work saying 70, 20, 10. You drive back on Friday night, you realize it wasn't 70, 20, 10. It was 93, 7, and 0. There's always something that comes in the way. And the problem is value. Of course, today is important, current value. And tomorrow is future value. But these new ideas, concepts, business models, and technologies that change the rule of the game could have a huge long-term value. And if you're doing 70, 20, 10, you're fine. If you're doing 93, 7, and 0, you're screwed. Love the model. So simple, it's going to stick in your mind. So let me conclude. I want to question your day after tomorrow strategy. Let me give you one extremely practical tip. We talked about control and relevance. Many of you work in large organizations, and you wouldn't be here if you had good governance structures. The biggest organizations have audit committees. I have nothing against audit committees. But who sit on an audit committee? The people on an audit committee are, by definition, the most boring people in the company. And it's true, because you need the most risk-averse people to sit in your audit committee to make sure that people follow the rules and don't color outside the lines. Let me give you one practical tip. If you have an audit committee in your company, maybe as a counterbalance, you should consider having actually a disruption committee. And if you have an audit committee, to balance that, maybe you should have a group of people who are constantly thinking, why don't we color outside of the lines? I think that will give you a stronghold on this day after tomorrow. It's not about technology, it's about culture, it's about risk, it's about ambition, and in the end, it's about strategy. I wanted to throw a couple of mind bombs. I wish you a lot of success in this day after tomorrow. Keeping calm and doing what you've always done is not the right recipe. And if you feel a little bit uneasy, that's what I wanted to do. This is my favorite quote: confidence is what you have before you understand the problem. And it comes from a man who has had a lot of problems in his life. I started with this, I'll end with this. This was not the complete entry of The Tale of Two Cities. It's much more beautiful. It's the best of times, and it's the worst of times. It truly is. It is the age of wisdom and the age of foolishness. It is the epoch of belief and the season of light. It's a spring of hope and the winter of despair. I wish you a lot of success in the day after tomorrow. Thank you very much.